Hello again, I'm Jeremy at 9VHT here with the second Skylog training video. In this video, I'll demonstrate some recommendations on how to set up for an upcoming event. Just like the first video, I'm creating this in 720p so that you can clearly see what I'm doing. If you see blurry text when I get into Skylog, you may need to use the gear icon to force YouTube to play this back in HD. So for this video, I will once again log into the demo system, and I'll show you a quick little behind the scenes on creating a new group for our fictitious event. We'll call this the Glacier Edge Bike Rally, and as you can probably tell from the autocomplete, this is not the first swing at making this video. Sometimes greatness takes a few tries. So I'll show you real quick the settings behind the scenes in a group. Mapping is something that we will cover at a later date. I don't need to add myself as a member of this group, but if I did, I would just type in, the call sign or username of the user I needed to add. Options for access levels are normal user, map admin, group chief. Obviously, since I created the group, I am the group chief for this one. So now I'm back at the switchboard. I'll click on the group, which is here in my list of groups that I can make use of, and now I'm in. So right here is a change that I've already made since the first video. I'm changing Skylog over so that the default landing screen is now the tactical display. The only downside of this is that people who are very point and click oriented will need to go into incident summary in order to create or edit incidents. I intentionally don't have many clickable links on the tactical display because things do a lot of moving around on this screen. You could be lining up your mouse to click on one thing and then the screen updates and you're clicking on something else, which wouldn't be fun. The only clickable stuff on this screen are the things up at the top that aren't going to move on you. So the big thing I do before an event is to build the stations in Skylog. I start by marking each station as checked out and at their respective locations, which is really easy to do with the :co command. And I recommend that you do this in advance because it'll save you a lot of typing as the event is getting going. So if you look in the list of : commands that I showed in the previous video, you'll see that the :co command takes two arguments potentially. The first one is the call sign of the station that you're going to mark as checked out, and then the second argument is optional, and that sets the station's last known location. I usually get a roster of the event stations ahead of time, and so here's my fictitious roster that I made up for my Glacier Edge Bike Rally. Around here, we tend to use tactical call signs on our event nets, and the tactical call signs match the positions that the stations are assigned to, and you'll definitely want to use those as the station call signs in Skylog as well. It'll make your life a lot easier. So let's kind of size things up here so they fit on the screen nicely. Now, as I create the stations, remember that since Skylog hasn't seen any of these call signs before, at least not in this group, I need to add a period onto each call sign. This is how we prevent typos from getting created as stations. The period means yes, I'm sure. And then I will set the location of each station to be what is on the roster. So net controls created, rest stop 1. Oh, I forgot the period there. And if we switch to the station summary screen, you'll see that the stations are starting to show up there. Rest stop 2, again, autocomplete giving away the fact that this is not my first swing at this one. And we'll do a little fast forward here while I go through and create all the stations. Now you can see here that as I get to the mobile stations, I'm not putting in their locations because those are going to change every time they call in. It really only makes sense to associate last known locations in advance with stations that are going to stay put there. So after I create all the stations, I go through and I add a note to each one reminding me who's working it. So there are two ways I can do this. I can either click on the station and edit it, and type in the note here, or I can use the :sn command, which takes a call sign and the text of the note that you want to add on. Now, the reason I do this, that one's Ingo. The reason I do this is because it helps me to remember who's working the stations. That's actually the main reason I added this particular feature. If I'm calling somebody and they don't answer to their tactical call sign, I'll start calling them by their real call and their first name, and that usually helps them to realize that I'm calling them, because sometimes they forget their tactical call signs as well, or they're just not listening for it. It's not habit for them. It's also helpful for when somebody calls me using their real call sign. I can just quickly switch to station summary and figure out which station it is. You know, some of these folks I may only bump into once or twice a year at events, so I don't always remember their real call signs. So I'm going to go through, and again, we'll do a little fast forward here as I add all the station notes. Okay, all the stations have notes on them now to help me remember who they are, and now the stage is set for the event. That is where I'm going to stop for this session. Join me for the next video where I'll demonstrate keeping track of incidents and the statuses of your event stations.